So I felt I had to leave my own comfort zone, and it's a very uncomfortable zone, to try and take deep, profound wisdom and make it more relevant, more palatable, and to answer the questions of the generation and know what the generation's questions are. I've learned from the greatest professors of education and professors of religion and Gedolei Olam that the problem of most education is people give profound answers to questions that nobody asked. What we have to do as rabbis, we have to figure out what questions are concerning our students and conduct them.
The BT View Podcast.
Shalom Aleichem Rabbi Isai, and welcome once again to the BT View, dedicated to bringing the fascinating sincerity of Balei Tshuva and their mentors to light, in order to give strength and chizik to the entire extended community. Rabbi Isai, today we have the unique opportunity to get a glimpse of a Jewish world outlook that has been proliferated and has touched the hearts of probably thousands of Balei Tshuva worldwide through the efforts of Rabbi Beryl Gershenfeld, Rosh Yeshiva of Machon Shlomo and Machon Yaakov in Eretz Yisrael, and founder and president of the Meor organization that runs educational Jewish programming on college campuses internationally. Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Gershenfeld.
Pleasure to be here with you.
I think what makes today's interview so special is that you yourself have played a tremendous role in the miraculous tshuva movement over the past 50 years. But not only that, then you went on to actually design and develop and package a whole educational system that's relevant to younger students of today. And you created a ladder for them to be able to grow with. It's just amazing.
Our zechus and our pleasure.
And it's so meaningful to me, because I learned from my Rebbe and Musar, Rabbi Shlomo. And from what I understand, a big rung in the ladder that you give over is the importance, according to Torah, of self-actualization. How important and what an obligation it is. And if I had to sum up all the shmuzim that we heard from Rav Wolbe and his sefer, I would say it's all included in this idea that he taught us. The way you'll come closest to Hashem is through yourself.
And that's, of course, 100% true, and that resonates with me very deeply. And just for the background, because we share a Mesorah of Rav Wolbe together, my mother was a great psychologist, professor of psychology, international president of the Association of Psychologists. And for a long time, she raised me on self-actualization. Carl Rogers, Abraham Maslow. And at one point in my teaching Torah, I was concerned about maybe I'm using this language just because it's my mother's language.
From the self-help world of today.
So of course, when I started looking, I said, no, that language of mikoach el poel is all over the Moral.
It's actually all sourced in the Torah.
It's all over the Arizal. The word Adam comes from the word ma, what can you become? And I went and asked this question to our Rebbe, Rav Wolbe, and Rav Wolbe said, no, of course, before there was ever a thought of self-actualization, the foundation, and he said this was the foundation that he received from Rabbi Yerucham, to focus on the power of mikoach el poel, the ability for a human being to know he's made b'tzelem Elokim, he's made in God's image, and that gives an obligation to now express ourselves in the world. I think this is important in a world that's secularized for Balei Tshuva and disconnected. The first step most of us will make will not be we're working for a Kodesh Baruch. It's a high level Mesilas Yesharim of Chassidus. But we should actualize and make ourselves, that I think most people feel much closer to and much more connected to.
It's so special to me that you've made that a major point to give over to the younger generation. It's just, so thank you for that.
Pleasure to share it.
Now I think what makes Rabbi Gershenfeld so unique is that not only you've gone on to become a Rosh Yeshiva, but you yourself were originally a Balei Tshuva, which awards you such a tremendous understanding of the Talmidim that's much greater than someone who never had the experience. So maybe you'd share with us some of the queries that you went through in those years, in the early years before coming to Eretz Yisrael.
Sure. And yes, I hope it does, but of course we have to keep ourselves new because every generation has their own new questions. But I think that in my own process, I grew up in a very wonderful Jewish family in Philadelphia. Well, we were not, as you say, Shomer Torah mitzvahs. They were proud Jews, We were high holiday Jews, but very proud Jews. Probably to express it the best I can is that my grandfather was a great scientist, a bacteriologist, a dean of the College of Pharmacy and Science. And he used to always be very proud when they put out a book of Who's Who of Judaism that they would have his name, Dr. Louis Gershenfeld, and then the next name for greatness was George Gershwin, the great composer. So that gives you an idea of what was considered great in the family.
Yeah, because that was considered greatness for the average secular Jew in those days. Yeah.
I think there were three questions that, if I had to summarize all my questions, and probably like we just finished Pesach Seder, the importance of asking questions is probably one of the aspects I got from my Jewish legacy of my family. There were three questions that I was confronting as a young teenager that bothered me. Grew up in a family of academics.
Almost like existentialist questions.
And the questions were, step number one was, I knew that being wise was important. Part of my Jewish legacy, and part of my parents all being professional professors.
You look up in all the generations, Talmidei Chachamim, leaders of the generation, Sanhedrin.
Yeah, and maybe we can even look at a book together in a moment. But I saw that, so I knew that being smart was important, being wise was important. But I knew that there was different levels of wisdom. I saw professors of Ming history that knew a lot about Chinese history, but I didn't see the relevance or that made them better people.
Didn't connect to life.
So I recognized there's a priority of knowledge that had to come out. Usually, there's certain branches of knowledge, and so what's the key ideas that we have to know? And I wanted to know, is there absolute morality? Isn't there absolute morality? Why is there a universe?
Well, can wisdom actually bring to a better life?
That'd be the second question.
Okay.
The first question was just, there's priorities of knowledge. To be smart is good, but there's certain things that make you wise and make you a better human being, and that's what I wanted to focus on.
In other words, is there absolute knowledge?
Yes. And then second was, my parents were both very good. My parents were devoted to the community in amazing ways. My father was a doctor. He opened up a free clinic, was a director of a clinic. My mother, we used to joke, was a great psychologist and probably on the board of 50 nonprofits to make the world better.
Wow.
But I looked at my parents, I said, but why should you want to be good? I didn't know why goodness was so important. It was part of, obviously, a legacy, that last drop. And then the third aspect, I think, that was important to me was, why are you proud to be Jewish? I would tell my parents pretty straightforward, my grandparents, I don't understand. Don't you see where this is going? Don't you see that great-grandparents were religious and you're conservative and the next generation's reform? And don't you see where I'm supposed to get? Yes, don't you see where I'm supposed to be going? Like, why are we proud to be Jewish? What isn't that we can't get from the Western world? What is that debate between Athens and Jerusalem? Why is Jerusalem special?
So that is really everyone's hidden question. Just you asking the questions.
So I was asking those questions. That's what concerned me. And that kept me pretty busy through my teenage years. And guess what? It's kept me busy until today, answering those questions more
So maybe it's just part of your nature, and it's a gift.
I think it's a Jewish gift. I think, again, we grew up, there's a part of Judaism that's still left by Jews, and that aspect of the importance of being good, that aspect of the importance of knowing. The fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it Tzelem Elokim, I think it's inherent in Jews, maybe it's inherent in everyone, that we have to be wise and we have to be good, and we have to know why we're a Am Nivchar. So I think those three things are there, and that's what as you're saying, since I went through it so clearly, I believe that everybody has that inside of them, and therefore it's my mission to try and help them. My mother at one point, what kind of psychologist do you believe in? Who do you think resonates with you? Mm-hmm. And I felt strange, that I felt strange that I don't believe that Freud was right. And then I don't believe that Jung, that a drive for power is my major expression. Finally, when I came at 14 or 15 to see Viktor Frankl, and that man's greatest desire is a desire for meaning, a desire for purpose, I said, that's the one that hits me. That's a secular vision that hits me. That drive for purpose, I believe, is in every human being, and that's, I guess, the foundation of all that I do.
Wow, amazing. So then Rabbi Gershenfeld comes to Eretz Yisrael, And I would say that Rabbi Gershenfeld came to us yeshiva that's historic. Historic in terms of the history of English-speaking tshuva in Eretz Yisrael. It was called Shema Yisrael, and what it did is, it was the predecessor of all institutionalized education for Baalei Tshuva that came afterwards, but it merged the strength of probably almost all the great visionaries of that time, including Rav Noach Weinberg, alav hashalom, Rav Mendel Weinbach, alav hashalom, Rav Notar Schiller, alav hashalom, Rav Yaakov Rosenberg, alav hashalom, and Yalda Mecham L'chaim, Rav Aaron Feldman, who's today the Rosh Yeshiva of Meor Yisrael in Baltimore. So maybe you, and from what I understand, you became one of the first students of that yeshiva. So for me, this is almost living history. Maybe you'll share with us a little of what insights you received during those years that were life-changing.
Sure, and I feel, as you're saying, privileged to have been part of that special. It only lasted about 2 years because of the energy of the different great personalities clashing and developing with each other. But it was a very special time. I think I was the 13th student in Shema Yisrael, about a year into its development. I know because there weren't enough beds, so I had to wait for a person to get married before I could move into a bed and be over there. So yes, there were great people, visionaries, and that empowered me greatly. I heard all the many different aspects of Torah and vision of what's going on.
Did they had answers for you? Did you feel they had some answers for your questions?
Sure, amazing answers for the questions. And my first Shabbos that I came to Eretz Yisrael, I came to Israel to learn yeshiva, but I was looking around for what yeshiva, where to go to. I was looking all over. And at that time, Rabbi Beryl Gershenfeld was not part of Shema Yisrael. He came in later. And everyone in America told me the person I should look to as a mentor is go visit Rabbi Beryl. So I went to Rabbi Feldman for my first Shabbos in Eretz Yisrael. And I'd been grappling with what to do, how it exactly happened. I was planning to go on to law school. I was accepted at very good law schools. I turned them down because I knew that becoming a lawyer was an important tool, but there were roots of knowledge that I didn't grab deeply, and I recognized that I needed more wisdom if I wanted to really care about Judaism. So I went to Rav Feldman, and I talked to him about, maybe I should just really spend a short period of time in yeshiva and go back and become a Jewish leader by becoming B'kadosh Shem Shemayim. If my grandfather is famous because he's a dean, and Gershwin is famous because he's a composer, so I'll be a, B'kadosh Shem Shemayim. So Rav Feldman taught me one of those life lessons, those crackling of the thunder, and he said, "Come, let's discuss it." And he opened up a Gemara Bechoros with me. And we talked about the machlokas between the Sabbath Beyatuna, the wise men of Athens, and the Chachmei Yisrael. Wow. And he showed me what that debate was, and that debate was very, very relevant to exactly the question I was asking, to whether Athens or Jerusalem. Then we went through the commentary of the Vilna Gaon, and I saw that the great lesson I always learned from Reb Aaron is that Torah is deep and Torah is relevant, and the Masorah we have is not just about eating latkes on Hanukkah, but there's profound, deep ideas that we have to access. And then it's not just the Gemara, there's an Acharon, there's a Vilna Gaon that explains it to you, makes it relevant, makes it deep. And that was, I think, the source.
So maybe I could share now what I heard from Rav Wolbe, that Chazal say, Chochma b'goyim tamin. If you want to find wisdom, you can find it among the goyim. But Torah b'goyim al tamin, because what Torah implies is using the Chochma in a way that it's life-changing, that it's relevant to our lives. And so therefore Torah is really in Yerushalayim. So that's amazing that you had that insight.
So that's the Rav Feldman part I've got. And then I think my father-in-law, Rav Rosenberg, had two greatnesses that he put into the yeshiva, again became part of that tapestry that made Shema Yisrael special, was that Rev Noach, I think, thought that what made a life valuable was being involved in Kiruv Rechokim, and that's true for many people. And Rev Schiller felt that what made life valuable was being a Ben Yeshiva and learning for your life. Rev Rosenberg, having a Masorah, his father was a rabbi, his grandfather was a rabbi, his great-grandfather was a rabbi. Those candlesticks over there are my wife's great-grandfather's candlesticks when he became
Wow.
Av Beis Din of a
Wow.
area outside of Budapest in Hungary. And that Mesorah told him that we pass like Rabbi Yishmael. Harbe asu Rabbi Yishmael also biyadan. Many people did like Rabbi Yishmael and they were successful. Harbe asu Rabbi Shimon v'lo also biyadan. And that therefore there's a very healthy aspect to a person realizing that he can do Torah in derech eretz in a powerful way.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it can go. So I think that's a major part of what he brought to the yeshiva.
Wow. So this is really history. This is the roots of the tshuva movement for English speakers in Eretz Yisrael.
And then second was he understood the importance of, as again being Rav Volba, Talmidim together. My father-in-law had it from Rav Ruderman, who had it from Rav Alter Slobodka, who had it from Yisrael Salanter, that yeshivas need to be personalized. You can't build yeshivas. You have to plant and develop individuals. And that the most important aspect is working with individuals.
So are
Rav
you saying that
Rosenberg
personalization is part of the Musar movement?
is part of that, for sure.
Wow.
It's because, as Reb Yisrael Salanter says in many of the Or Yisrael letters, what I'm going to tell Heshi is not what I'm going to tell Rav Nachum, is not what I'm going to tell my wife. And we have to, and therefore, the most important aspects are having a personalized relationship. I was like Rev, maybe coming from a family of professors, or maybe just a normal problem of intellectuals. I like giving classes to big groups of people. Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky once gave me tohacha from the altar, and he asked me, like, what's the optimal size for a class?
Okay.
So I quoted him the Gemara. I said, the Gemara says 25.
25, Rambam.
So the Gemara. So yes, and the Shulchan Aruch paskins it.
Yes.
So he asked, did you look it up in the Shulchan Aruch? I said, Rabbi Yaakov, of course I looked up in the Shulchan Aruch. I was interested. I want to be a mechanech. I said, it says 25. He says, do you look it up in the Nosa Kalim on the Shulchan Aruch? I said, yes, I did. I was actually interested. What? He said, did you learn the whole Siman with the Nosa Kalim? I said, no. So he showed me that in the Piskei Tshuva there, he brings an Emunah Shmuel and Reish Mem Hey in Yeridea, that the Emunah Shmuel says the machlokus about 25, and whether or not you can be motzi mammon on it, that only applies to B'zman Chazal. But now, sheniskatnu halavava shel talmidim v'malamdim, now that the hearts and the minds of the talmidim, of the teachers and the talmidim are smaller, what's 25 then is only 10 or 12 now.
Wow.
And Rav Yaakov says, I paskin at 7 or 8. Like,
wow.
That's what you can do.
Wow, that's amazing.
So I think Rav Rosenberg and that the Mesorah is that we have to teach Torah, but we have to keep a personal relationship.
So that was like a
with
direct
students.
hurrah for our times.
For our times.
Wow. And that's what we see, how much personalization is important nowadays.
And then Rav Noach, I obviously felt his proactive passion to touch every Jew and realize what's possible, that we don't have to stay inside yeshivas, but there should be a proactive connection. And I think also Rav Noach's ability to realize that there had to be ladders and connections, bridging gaps. But he was very beautiful, that he recognized the importance of derech eretz kodem l'Torah. His big class in my day was the 48 ways, that there are 48 midos you have to develop that come, like right now during Omer, the 48 midos we have to work on before we can get to Torah. So Rav Noach worked on that in a way that most people wouldn't work on it. The importance of knowing proofs of God, again, working a person through the intellectual steps of working, not just being makabel. So yeah, we can go through everybody, but I thought it was a very important time to get everybody. They all left an impression.
Okay, so then I wanted to ask, from what I understand, later on, Rabbi Gershenfeld was zeicha to strike a personal connection with one of the leading Bali Machshava of the previous generation, Rabbi Mosha Shapiro. How had the Torah of Rabbi Moshe Shapiro influenced or impacted your approach?
Rav Moshe was a light for our generation and informed, hopefully, all of my Torah and all of my actions.
Wow.
And he was, for me, he was a link to the Mesorah of Slobodka, the Mesorah of Slobodka with depth and wisdom, the profundity of Torah. Like Reb Feldman started, I think there's this aspect of our generation needs to see there's Mesorah, but if I'm not part of the Mesorah, I just find it as ritual. I just find it as legacy. Where's the wisdom?
So it needs to be explained in a respectful
in a deep,
way that makes
powerful
sense.
way. And there are certain people who are elusive, brilliant Torah Jews, but they don't explain the text. It's their own wisdom they're explaining. Rav Aaron Feldman, Yibad Lechem, and Rav Mosha, they showed the depth of the Mesorah in the words of the text. Take the text seriously, how that text is powerful and relevant and
you have to
life-changing.
be able to see it in the source.
See it in the source and connect to the source. And that's what I
Wow.
always tell. When a student ever tells me, Rabbi, you said, I'll say, I failed. All I want to do is I wanted to connect you back to Torah. The Torah says.
I want to tell you what the Torah says.
If you see it in the Torah, are great. The only thing that should be is my jokes, and they're not so good. So it's going to keep the focus. In the Torah, we're in good shape. That's what we're going for. Before I started Machon Shlomo, before we started it, I went to Rav Mosha Shapiro, and I asked him, Rav Mosha, I can't do a lot of things, but we've got the Gemara Machos Chaf Daled, Omed Alachas, right? The Niskatnu Adoris, and everything small. Let's give me one Yesod. And Rav Mosha said profoundly, and it's the mission and the responsibility I take very seriously every day, that he would tell me, he thought for a long time, which was not usual for Rav Mosha, because he was a genius in Eloi. So I knew it was really going to be profound, and it was. He says, Kodesh Baruch Hu says in Devarim, Torah is lo b'shemayim. Torah is not in Shemayim. What does Shemayim mean? So the Vilna Gaon says at the beginning of Ederes Eliyahu that Shemayim is an etymology from the word Sham. Shemayim is something we can't reach. It's there, it's far away, it's there. It's many
Rashi in the beginning of Rashi, Shemayim.
But no, that's Rashi. The Gra is just Sham. There's many Shams. No Mayim. There's many Shams.
That's Shemayim.
Shemayim.
Plural of Sham.
There are many theirs. He says, and that's the greatest. So when Torah says Torah's lo b'shemayim, that's the problem. Everybody sits down and they go right now and they go, right now we're learning Parshas Tazria Mitzorah. The real depth of Torah is not there. Depth of Torah is in Bereshis, depth of Torah is in Yisro. No. Torah's lo b'shemayim. Torah's right here. Right now, every word of Torah, you can connect to the brakim and the kolos of Torah. You can connect to the power and the depth of Torah.
Wow.
That's
like a lesson for life. Every minute of our lives.
But first of all, every verse of the Torah has to be. My mission is to make the verse of the Torah profoundly wise and profoundly relevant and life-changing to the person. This is a Maimon Har Sinai. Every time we teach, we have a chance, and that's what we're trying to teach the students. And I think that we have to get is that Torah is profound and it's powerful. And we have to look deeper at the text. We can't accept, right? We can't accept that the goodness of being a Baal Tshuva is that I didn't have a pshat as a cheder yingel. So when I look, I'm looking with a 25-year-old person's mind. Hopefully not, at least it's 25, but maybe it's 70. And we should look with the depth and see there's a profound message there. Otherwise, we're making our Torah a relic. We're making our Torah irrelevant. So Rav Mosha taught me, and then that's not just about Torah, but like you said, it's true of every moment in life. Kodesh Baruch Hu is all around. We've got a whole world here. Our mission is to relate to that greatness of Kodesh Baruch Hu behind the world. That's what we're trying to do and go for.
Wow.
So I think it's a message Rav Mosha shared with me.
So now fast forward 25 years, and Rabbi Gershenfeld learns, gets married, teaches, and becomes Rosh Yeshiva in Machon Shlomo. It's about 6 years later, goes and then founds Meor in order to give over Jewish educational material in college campuses worldwide. And my question is, at what point in life did it start for Rabbi Gershenfeld the desire to actually put time into building a syllabus, an entire syllabus of Jewish education for college students?
I believe that inside every Jew is that the tachlis of Talmud Torah is v'shinantam levonecha. We makabel ol malchus shemayim, we accept it on ourselves to teach Torah to our sons and to our students.
Says the mitzvah is lilmod,
lamed, right? And Rav Mosha Shapiro would always be medayik that if you're just learning Torah, you haven't done the mitzvah v'shinantam. So, but I saw myself more as teaching people the second level and in a base medrash. And I guess as I became more mature, I felt b'makom shenid ish ishtadel liot ish. I felt bad for a generation that there's a world out there without values, without ideals. There's the best and the brightest Jewish people with idealism who are living lives. They can't put marriages together. They can't build society. And
it's again, the wisdom is not connecting with life.
And I said, look, it could be. The first time I went to one of the greatest Jewish philanthropists and told him I wanted to build Meor, he told me, oh, Rabbi, you're too intellectual. This is not going to go. I'm not going to do it. I wanted to go. I came to him and asked for $180,000, and he didn't give me anything. And he said, it's much too intellectual. This is not what we're going to do. Because Meor is based on the idea that I've tried to explain with this so far, Rav Nachum, you know me, that the way to bring a Jew into Torah is when I went to just do Nasev and Nishma, just to do rituals, they didn't talk to me. I felt like, yeah, I can do those rituals. I spent time in Japan. I went to university in Japan to check out metaphysical, mystical, meditational wisdom. I did my studies all over the world. And
so it's not rituals that make Yiddishkeit special.
So it is rituals that make them special. When you understand the rituals, it makes it special.
Right, I mean, it's not rituals just in the sense of rituals.
And it made me awkward. I'd go to places, and I felt that Judaism was not being presented the right way. And Kodesh Baruch Hu made me, as you know, as we're saying at the beginning, you started off, that I had the experience of Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu obviously grew up in a house of Avodah Zorah, and he went out and taught the world. And Klal Yisrael comes from Shem Ve'ever, as the Kesef Mishnah says. Shem Ve'ever, they grew up in Noach's house. So they were
had exposure to Bnei Noach.
They just were just from Yeshiva. They didn't Makarev people. We don't know anything about Shem Ve'ever's children.
Oh, Shem and Ever just had the Yeshiva.
They had Yeshiva. They didn't. Avram went out. That's what the Beis Yosef says. Kesef Mishnah says.
Avram was the one who went out and taught.
Avram went out and taught, and that's what Klal Yisrael's from. So I felt I had to leave my own comfort zone, and it's a very uncomfortable zone, to try and take deep, profound wisdom and make it more relevant, more palatable, and to answer the questions of the generation and know what the generation's questions are. I've learned from the greatest professors of education and professors of religion in Gedolei Olam that the problem of most education is people give profound answers to questions that nobody asked. What we have to do as rabbis, we have to figure out what questions are concerning our students and connect them. And we know the students made it.
This will bring us to the next question. How would you say specifically what would be the mission statement of Meor? So
the mission statement of Meor we'll do two ways. Once we'll do it with a metaphor, and then we'll do it with the footnote source. The idea of Meor means illumination. And that's what I really see Judaism as. I see, why do we light Shabbos candles? So Rambam Paskins, which Gemara, there's three different answers in the Gemara, but the Gemara Paskins, it's Oneg Shabbos. So my kids asked a very deeply profound question when they were 6 and 7 years old. They said, Abba, I don't get it. You keep telling us that we light Shabbos candles for Oneg Shabbos, but if it was up to us and you wanted to Makarev people, the way Shlomo Melech should have made the Takana should be that we all have to eat Ben & Jerry's Chalav Yisrael ice cream and chocolate chip cookies, and then we get for Shabbos, have real oneg. So of course the morale answers profoundly the question. It's actually the Meiri asked the question there in Shabbos. The Meiri asked the question exactly, but the morale provides a deep svara behind what the words of the Meiri say, and it's the fact that Shabbos, there's a special type of oneg that Torah gives, that Shabbos gives us. And that's the oneg of expanded reality, to perceive and understand more. When you're sitting in darkness, you're afraid. You're sitting in darkness, any noise that comes out, you're worried about, you're concerned about. When there's light, there's joy, you feel safe. And more than that, I can see you and see how you're reacting, Rav Nachum. I can see how Reb Heshi is reacting.
That's the oneg.
More reaction. That's the oneg. It's the oneg of expanded reality. That's what Judaism is great about. Yes, on Shabbos you can also eat ice cream. And if you want, you can have your herring. And if you want, you can have your kigel. Right? You can have everything. But the real joy of Shabbos is the expanded. Meor is, my mission is to share Judaism in a way that gives people an expanded reality. You want to have Judaism. You want to see Torah illuminates the world for you. So you can have better marriages. You can be better at business. You can be a better father. You can understand yourself more.
Sure, sure. Bring down the chokhmah to the level of life.
It expands our wisdom. That's what Torah is for. And that's why we have Oneg Shabbos. We have candles for on Shabbos. The source, the naming of it, just the name. So the source for people is, and that's what Kesef committed to the fact that Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, that learning Torah is the way to bring people back. But it's a medrash we all know in Eicha. The beginning of Medrash Eicha Rabbah, the second Eicha Rabbah, the medrash says, quotes a pasuk in Yirmiyahu, and the pasuk says that Osi Azvu, Mi Kodesh Baruch Hu, Klal Yisrael's left. So Rasi, in my Torah, Lo Shamaru, and my Torah you didn't guard. So of course the Medrash asks, what do you mean if you left Kodesh Baruch Hu, who cares about the Torah? So it says, no, even if you've left the Kodesh Baruch Hu, HaMeor shebeTorah makzirin lemutav, the light of Torah, the illumination, and we're very careful, Rav Hutner is Medayik, and he says the word, it doesn't say Torah brings you back. A Meor, when you learn Torah deeply and profoundly, that brings you back. A Meor shebeTorah,
reality, illumination.
You see why it works, right. So that's what the mission statement is of Meor.
Wow.
But I want to share the beauty of Judaism with every Jewish student. My mission is when I talk to every student, I want after one conversation, your life should be a little more broad, a little brighter, a little more engaged. That's what we're trying to look for and share a little bit of Judaism with everybody.
So then my question would be, is the mission statement of Machon Shlomo, Machon Yaakov similar? Can it work in conjunction with Meor, or is it a little sort of different goal?
Good question. I think it's the same idea, but it's a 301 class versus a 101 class. In other words, my mission is the same for everybody. If someone asks me, what's God's mission? What's the Kodesh Baruch Hu's mission for the Jewish nation, for the world? And it's that we should be Adam Shalem. We should be complete human beings.
Everyone should focus on building themselves as the best form of beneficial human being to the world they could be. Right,
and again, we can go through our Revolba. There's 3 drachim. Some people have it by a Kodesh Baruch Hu, to be Eved Hashem. The language that speaks to me, the language that is the shorish of my neshama, I'm pretty sure, and I think many people's neshamas, is the language of how can I actualize my potential, like we talked about. Adam Shalem. So
use your innate abilities and strengths for the benefit of the klal.
So I think that's what we tried to work on. That so at their level, Adam Shalem is one set of issues we're working on. It's going to be very profoundly, relationships, absolute morality, relevance of Judaism. In Machon Shlomo, Machon Yaakov, it's a much higher level of how the 613 mitzvahs make you an Adam Shalem. How are you going to bring the high Torah into the world of being a professional, being a
so it's almost like the levels of Hashem gave the world 7 mitzvahs, just for in general illumination, but then there's the 613 that bring us to a higher level.
I would do it, so I just want to make people feel like they're goyim. I would say that it's more like the Mesilas Yesharim, that there's levels. There's the Hiris, there's Visas, there's Nikiyas. We're going up levels and levels.
So Meor would be the initial entrance level.
Right. Ma'ahov chovaso b'olamo. That's the first, right. Meor is, okay, what is it to be human? Entry point. What's to be human? Now we go to Yeshiva. Now we can work and see Hiris, Visas, Nikiyas, which becomes to be a tzaddik, and then afterwards become a chassid.
2 years you've ascended the ladder to a greater level. Wow. Amazing. So my question, I think, that I have for today is, when I look at Machon Shlomo, Machon Yaakov, one of the things that distinguish them, for me, in contrast to many other yeshivas, is the special implementation, practically, of how you give a unique approach to each and every student according to their individualized strengths. For example, just the fact that you hold the yeshiva at approximately 35 students, that you maintain that personal connection. You keep up in conversation with each student. You keep tabs on students. And now, probably over the years, it's been thousands and thousands of students. So my question to Rabbi Gershenfeld is, from your personal experience, is this educational template of giving over an approach of Yiddishkeit which is unique to the individual strengths something that holds out better over the course of years, many years later, as opposed to giving them a size one fits all type of Torah approach to students? Does it play out better over the years and hold better with the students if we gave them an approach that was unique for their individual strengths? Or it doesn't make such a difference? If you give over an approach which is size one fits all of Torah, it will also be good.
So clearly, the way you set the question up, Rav Nachum, we both know the answer. And the answer is that one of the keys to Meor is I look for Rebbes who are proactive. They have to go out and engage people because people aren't coming to look for you now for Torah. And I look for people who are wise and can connect people to texts. And I look for people who are willing to spend time working with individuals, because we all know that everyone is so unique that you have to be willing to engage them to help them develop and grow. Kodesh Baruch Hu made each of our faces different, each of our DNA and RNA different. I have this mystical experience. I'm traveling around America. I come and I'm exhausted by the end of the trip, and I walk in front of my clear line at the airport, and I walk up and they flash this light in my eye, and immediately comes up my name, my passport number.
They get identified.
From my eye, in 1 microsecond, they can tell who I am. So as a Rebbe, we have to be able to do the same thing, that people have special, unique individualities. And we have to bring that out. I think that's one of the great things Rabbi Yisrael Salanter taught us from our Meor, and that's what Rabbi Rosenberg wanted to share with all of us. And that people are so profound, and that's one of the issues we all have as Rebbes, of how much can we want to spread the message, but we have to work with students, and we have to find to balance the two aspects. Wow. I was once by the great tzaddik and gaon, Rav Mosha Solomon, and the two of us maybe were of the Mashgiach of Lakewood, and the two of us were maybe complaining a little about the difficulty of the work of being a mashgiach, how there's no end for it, and you can't. It's very difficult, but of course it's very beautiful, and the students do become better. And, last night I'm talking to students with marriage problems, with business problems, with having a bris tomorrow morning.
It's called Nosib Ola Klal.
There's lots to do with. So he said we have a new thing. A mashgiach should only be a mashgiach for 10 years. And then after 10 years he should quit. And all he does is he has to work the rest of his life with the 10 years of students he's developed. I thought it's very good.
That would be enough.
Then Rav Mataziyahu said, but what about the mashgiach who doesn't have enough people to work with after 10 years? Well, he's clearly not a mashgiach. He should be fired, because he should go on. So yes, I hope that I believe that the quality that we try to put into the students and caring about them and relating to them, and we have vadim on, we have a 3-month vad on knowing yourself according to Torah, how did you get to that? And then we have a 3-month vad on marriage, and then we have a 3-month vad on how to kind of Shem Shemaim in the business world, how to work it out. Those are all important aspects that we have to work on.
So amazing.
I wish we did more, but we're trying to do the best we can to balance it off.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Gershenfeld, for that information, which is, I feel is imperative for the listeners to know about.
Okay, great.
Pleasure. I want to give you a tremendous bracha that you continue to be that messenger and bridge of the profoundness of Torah to Jewish youth today for many years to come.
Amen. We should share it together. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And to all the listeners, remember, the BT View matters. And you can help us continue to bring you these episodes of the fascinating sincerity of Balei Tshuva and their mentors through subscribing or even leaving a like or a comment. Thank you so much for all your support. Okay, Rabbi Isai, till next time.
The BT View Podcast.